Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. We are discussing the one of the most important ideal, that is freedom. And in this chapter, freedom, we have discussed the importance of freedom, why the ideal of freedom is so important for us, and then we have discussed the meaning of freedom. And when we were discussing the meaning of freedom, we came to know that there are two aspects of freedom. One is negative and the other is positive. Negative freedom means absence of restraints, and positive freedom means the atmosphere in which a person or a group of people or a community is able to develop his or her capabilities, and in this way people are able to develop their personality in the full manner. And after that we were discussing that constraints are there. We cannot think of absolute liberty, absolute freedom, because constraints are always there. And what is necessary, what is important, that these constraints should be reasonable, they should be acceptable. And in this regard we have seen the source of constraint. What are the sources of constraints? And we have seen the source of constraint is first is force. By using the force, the constraints are imposed by the government, and this is usually done by the colonial government. And the second source of constraint is social inequalities, because in society inequalities are prevailing, and because of this inequality, what happens that restrictions are imposed on a particular group of people or a particular community. And we have also discussed the views of Subhash Chandra Bose regarding freedom, and his view regarding freedom is that freedom is meaningless without the concept of equality. Freedom means freedom for all. It should not be limited for a particular group or community only, but it should be available to all in an equal manner. And after that, now we are discussing the need of constraints. Why do we need constraints? Why constraints are important? So we have discussed in this regard. So first of all, why do we need constraints? Okay, so in this regard we have discussed in the previous class that whenever people are living together, there is bound to arise conflict and tension among the people. Why conflict will arise? Because all the people have some interest in their life, some demands of their life. And many times we find that these interests of the people or demands of the people are not only different, but they are conflicting also. And this conflicting interest of the people cause tension and conflict among the people. And so what is required, that we cannot think of freedom in absolute sense. If freedom is given absolutely without any constraint, then there will not be any kind of order in the society. There will be chaos in the society, and people will fight over trivial issues like they will fight for parking space. They will fight for any matter, and it can take an ugly turn also. It can cause loss of life also. So this is human nature, and because of this we need to put some restrictions or limitations or constraints on the liberty of the people. So now why do we need constraints? 2.3. So we have seen that there are numerous reasons why disagreements may develop in a society, which may express themselves through open conflict. We see people around us ready to fight for all kinds of reasons, ranging from the serious to the trivial. Race while driving on the roads, fighting over parking spaces, quarrel over housing or land, disagreement regarding whether a particular film should be banned or screened. All these and many other issues can lead to a conflict and violence, and it can even cause loss of life. So this is the situation. We have such interests which are clashing to each other, and because of this we fight with each other on many issues. These issues range from serious to trivial. On very unimportant matters also we fight. Therefore, every society needs some mechanism to control violence. If people are living together, there is very much possibility of conflict and tension and violence. And this conflict, tension and violence need to be controlled. And for that control, what is required is constraint on freedom is required. So long as we are able to respect each other's view and do not attempt to impose our views on others, we may be able to live freely and with minimum constraints. If we are showing very much acceptance, if we are ready to accept other people's view, we are not having extremist view, and we are easily accommodating with each other. If this kind of situation is prevailing in society, then there will be need of minimum limitations, minimum constraints, because people are self-controlled. Their views are not extremist. They are ready to accommodate. So everything is going in a right direction. And in this situation, people are not required to be controlled in a large manner, in a great degree. People will be under minimum constraints in such situation. Ideally, in a free society, we should be able to hold our views, develop our own rules of living, and pursue our choices. So, which society will be called a free society? A free society is that society in which we are free to hold our own views. No one can force us to change our views. We can have our views according to our own opinion. This is freedom. Then, other than holding our own views, we must have right to make choices. If we are not free to make choices, then the society is not free. So, we must have freedom to choose. We must have some options in front of us, and we must have the freedom to choose any of the options. And the freedom is develop our own rules of living. No one can compel us to live in a particular manner. We should be able to make our own rules for living. If there is rules regarding our rules of living, how we should eat, what we should eat, what we should wear, then that will not be a free society. So a free society is that society in which we are free to hold our own views, we are free to make our own rules regarding living, and we are free to make decisions. We are free to choose from the options which are given. So this is a definition of free society. But the creation of such a society too requires some constraints. If we think that this is a true definition of free society, then if we want to create such a free society, then there will be requirement of some constraints. Because without constraints, the society will turn into an unorganized group of people. It will turn into chaos. There will be no law and order. There will be no peace in the society, and in this way there will be no development in the society. So it will be of no use for anyone. So if we want a society to be free, there is a need to put some constraints on the freedom of the people. At the very least, it requires that we be willing to respect differences of views, opinions, and beliefs. So what is very much important for a free society, that we must be ready to accept those views which are different from us. It requires that we be willing to respect differences of views, opinions, and beliefs. A free society is that society in which people are accepting, people are giving respect to different views. What happens? It's a human nature that we don't like different people. If we see someone different in language, someone different in culture or religion, we develop a kind of prejudice against that person. So if this is happening, then the society cannot be said to be free. So first of all, what is required? We must accept the difference of opinion and views. And not only we should accept, but we should respect also the differences of opinion and views and beliefs. This is very much required. However, sometimes we think that a strong commitment to our beliefs require that we must oppose all those who differ from or reject our views. So, what is the human nature? The human nature is that we think that if we want to show our strong commitment to our belief or to our views, in order to show our strong commitment towards our views, what we do, we start rejecting, not only rejecting, but we start disrespecting other views and beliefs, because we think that if we are doing like that, if we are not giving respect to other beliefs, or views, then we are strongly committed towards our views and beliefs. So, what we experience in our daily life, that people belonging to different religious beliefs uh, show their opposition towards other religion, because they think that by showing their opposition they are becoming more uh, committed towards their own religion. Suppose a Hindu criticizes Islam religion, because it is thought by him that if he criticizes the other religion, then he will become a strong Hindu. But this is not the matter. We can be a Hindu, and in spite of being Hindu, we can praise other religion also, because religion is not something that we can praise only one religion. And if we are belonging to one religion, we should oppose all other religion in order to be religious. If a Hindu not only accept but appreciate other religion, it does not mean that he is a lesser Hindu. So this is what we see not only in the field of religion but in almost all the views. If we are belonging to leftist ideology, then we think that we can't support or we can't show our respect towards other ideology. We try to disrespect the other ideology. So it's not that anything, neither any religion nor any ideology nor any anything is not such that that is perfect. Everything has some good qualities, everything has some bad qualities. So what is required, that we must try to recognize the good qualities of others. But this is not human nature. Human nature is that we just try to find out fault. We just try to find out negative points in other beliefs, in other ideology. So this nature of human make it very much important, this nature of human make it very much urgent to impose some kind of restriction, because if restrictions are not there, then what could have happened, that the majority community can oppress the minority community, because the people are belonging to different religious belief, and people are not ready to accept other religious belief. They are opposing other religion, and in this way, if the people belonging to two religion are differ in number, one religious group is in majority and the other religious group is in minority, then in that situation there can be atrocities, oppression done by the majority group to the minority group. So in order to protect the interest of all the people of the society, what is required, that there must be some kind of restrictions or constraints. We see their views or ways of living as unacceptable or even undesirable. So this is about what we find, that the people who are belonging to different religion or belief, we think that their way of life is not only unacceptable but undesirable also. Under such circumstances, we need some legal and political restraints to ensure that differences may be discussed and debated without one group coercively imposing its views on the other. So, what we see that differences will be there in a society, differences will be there. Okay, and what is required? We need that these differences should be debated and discussed. There should be debate on the differences, there should be discussions on the differences, but there should not be any kind of coercive activities by the majority group. So, in order to stop the coercive activities, or the we can say, in order to stop the coercive imposition of the views and ideas of one group on the another group, we need some legal and political restraints. Then only we can think of the situation in which the differences will be debated and discussed, instead of forcing somebody to change his belief or to change his way of living. So this is required. Worse still, we may be confronted with attempts to bully or harass us so that we conform to their wishes. Many times it happens that people belonging to one group, that group may be on the basis of religion or on the basis of language or on the basis of reason also. We find that what happens, that one group starts bullying or harassing the other group. And why they are harassing? They are harassing so that the group should change its way of living. It should change its views, or it should change its religion. Many times forcefully people are compelled, people are forced to change their religion. So all these things happen in our society. If so, we may want stronger support from law to ensure that my freedom is protected. So if this condition is there in the society, so in this situation, what is required? We need some strong rules. The government, the state must be there to protect the interest of the victim, or to protect the interest of that particular group, to protect the freedom of each and every people of the country. So we cannot think of freedom in absolute term, because it's human nature that we are not ready to accept or to give respect to other views or beliefs. We just want supremacy of our views, supremacy of our religion, supremacy of our language. This is human nature, and because of this human nature, there is always atmosphere of fear. In the absence of rules, if rules are not there, if restrictions are not there, then there will be atmosphere of fear. And in this atmosphere of fear, only one group will be in a position to behave freely. Only one group will be free, and the other group will be harassed. It will not be able to choose according to its desire. It will not be able to make decisions according to his or her desire. So, if we want freedom for all, what is required? Constraints. Without constraints, we cannot think of freedom for all. In that condition, only the small group, which is economically influential, which is physically strong, or socially influential, or which is in numerically which is bigger, that is majority group. Only that group will be able to enjoy the freedom. The other group will always be in loss. So this is what? This is the relationship between liberty and equality. They both are strongly connected to each other. We cannot think of liberty without equality, because in that situation only few will be able to enjoy the freedom. So if we want that everyone should have freedom, everyone should have the right to express themselves, everyone should have the right to make decisions on their own, then the state must impose some restrictions. So this is why we need constraints. The important question, however, is to identify which constraints on freedom are necessary and justifiable and which are not. So we have understood up to now that restrictions are very much important. We cannot think of freedom without restriction. But now the question is, how much restrictions should be there? What kind of restrictions will be considered reasonable and acceptable, and what kind of restrictions will be considered unreasonable and unacceptable? So this is a big question. What sort of authority external to the individual may justifiably say what can be done and what cannot? So who has the authority to take decisions regarding these restrictions? What is wrong, what is right? Who is going to take decision? Which authority has the power to take all these decisions? Further, are there any areas of our life and actions that should be left free of all external constraints? So this is also a very important question. Are there any areas of our life in which we want there should not be any kind of external interference, or there should not be any kind of external constraints? If constraints are imposed on our personal life, what we should eat, what we should wear, how we should talk, whom we should marry, if all the matters of personal importance are we are forced to change these personal matters, then it will be highly unacceptable. So there are a space in which we want that there should not be any kind of interference, any kind of external constraint should not be there. So this is all about your why do we need constraints. Okay, now we will turn to a new subtopic, and this is a harm principle. This harm principle is given by J.S. Mill, who was a great thinker, great political thinker, and he has gave his opinion regarding liberty on his essay, which is named On Liberty. Okay. On liberty. So this is the essay in which he has expressed his views regarding freedom, and in this expression of view he has given this harm principle. Okay, this is very important for you, harm principle of Mill. To answer these questions satisfactorily, we have to address the issue of the limits, competence and consequences of the imposition. Now we are moving forward. We are seeing which constraints are reasonable, which constraints are acceptable, which constraints are unreasonable, which are unacceptable. Should there be an area in our life in which there should not be any kind of external constraints? So these are the questions which need to be answered if we want to clear our concept regarding freedom. We have to get answer to all these questions, and this harm principle of Mill is an effort to get answers to these questions only. We also have to engage with another issue that John Stuart Mill stated so eloquently in his essay on liberty. Okay, we are going to discuss his views, which is given in his essay that is on liberty. In the discussion in political theory, it is called the harm principle. So whatever his views regarding liberty, which is given in this essay, this view is known as harm principle in political